Hey guys, Cheri from the Watering Mouth here. I don't know if you can hear in my voice, but I'm so excited. It gets real nasally when I get really excited because I have the coolest interview guest today. I have Emily Boller. Emily, welcome.
Hi, it's such a pleasure to be here, Cheri. And it's nice to finally meet you in person.
Same back to you. Yes, so nice to meet you too. I want to tell you guys a little bit of backstory about why I'm interviewing her. So I've been in Dr. Furman's forum for a really long time, sort of looking at questions I had and trying to figure out what he said. On the Member Center, you can get answers from the doctor himself about various questions. And I've seen Emily Boller's name pop up thousands of times as I was looking for answers and things like this. People talking about her posting herself, so many different things about Emily Boller, Emily Boller. And when I first started this lifestyle 5-6 years ago, I would Google things and then this website Disease Proof would come up and there would be all these posts by this woman, Emily Boller. So over the years, I got to know she was one of the bigwigs in the nutritarian lifestyle. And Emily, I've wanted to interview you for so long, and we finally got our stuff together just a few months ago. I reached out to you on the forum. You were happy to do an interview, and it's perfect timing because Emily, you are writing a book, you're publishing a book, and it's coming out very soon. So
when I was filming this video, didn't have access to her book, but since then I've read it. It's awesome. And not only do I have this copy that I got to read, but this copy for you to read. So I am doing a giveaway with this video. Stay tuned to the end of the video to find out how you can enter it and get that copy. It is a signed copy from Emily herself. Sign up for the chance to win that book and I will send it straight to you, and good luck.
So Emily, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited.
It is a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be able to interact with your audience, and I'm ready.
Definitely. Okay, fantastic. So a little bit of housekeeping notes here. As you guys know, with every video, I add a little cheat sheet in, and I'm going to be asking Emily in a minute here what are her 3 favorite go-to recipes, and you guys can get those recipes if you sign up for the cheat sheets for this particular video. So sign up at thewateringmouth.com/cheat sheets. You sign up for that, I'll send you an email with the access information, and then you'll be able to get any cheat sheet I've ever done, as well as this cheat sheet with Emily Boller, okay? So make sure you sign up there. The other thing is, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's important to me that you guys subscribe so I know how many people love what I'm doing. If you subscribe, you get all my videos as soon as they come out, but you have to hit the bell button in order to get the notifications for those videos, okay? So make sure you do that, subscribe, hit the bell, and let's just get into this interview with Emily. Okay, Emily, so please tell us a little bit about your story, how you got into Eat to Live, and why are you so passionate about the topic of food addiction recovery, which is something that we talk about all the time on my channel.
Well, when I was little, before I was 6 years old, I was chubby. And so when I was in 1st grade, my mom, bless her heart, she meant to, help me. She put me on a diet. And I got weighed every day. I got a goose egg if I gained weight, and a plus sign if I lost weight. And she meant well, but she was a wonderful cook. Oh, everything she made and baked had sugar in it. She made pies and cakes. And so, she sent me to school with, lettuce and grapefruit and a hard-boiled egg. And I came home just starving. So I ate Twinkies and everything else when I got home. But anyhow, and unfortunately, kids are mean. Kids are mean to overweight kids. And so there was a lot of verbal abuse, in grade school, all through grade school. So in order to get into high school and be able to wear a pair of jeans, I literally only ate an orange for lunch at school when I was in 8th grade. And I lost weight, and I was able to go through high school looking a normal weight. And then my senior year in high school, I went too far the other way, became anorexic, ended up in a hospital. But this was in the late 70s,
Wow.
Given my age. In the late 70s, they didn't have much information about eating disorders, so it was swept under the rug. And I gained just enough weight to go to Purdue, met my husband down at Purdue. We got married eventually. and eventually had 3 little children under the ages of 3 years old. And I just ate myself to obesity, then ended up having 2 more children, 5 children altogether. And by the time my baby, my youngest, was born, I was 100 pounds overweight. At age 42, I had a heart cath. I had coronary artery disease, and he was only 5 years old at that time. And I knew I had to do something, you know, because here we are. I'm heading into my 40s, pre-diabetic and high blood pressure, 5 children at home to raise. I mean, it was serious. But I still played around. At this time, I was first introduced to Dr. Fuhrman when I was about 42, but I thought it would be very unrealistic to eat that way, especially with 5 children. He was like, you know, soccer moms go to soccer games, you're in charge of snacks. Who's going to bring carrots to a soccer game, you know? So I just incorrectly thought it would be too hard to switch over, so I didn't. Well, when I was 47 then, I was having chest pain. My blood pressure went up to 157 over 94, and I knew it was no longer if I would have a heart attack or stroke, but when. Because my dad had a heart attack, a couple of heart attacks. My mom had a couple. My grandmother, my mother had major strokes. I knew it was my turn anytime.
Yeah.
And so, but I was still so addicted to food, on the healthy food, that it's like, even with all that pressure, I still couldn't do it. And so one day, right before my 47th birthday, I was in my art friend. I'm an artist, trained in painting. I
love your art in the back. It's so beautiful. Go ahead.
That's my thing. Well, I was at my art friend's studio, and I got this like epiphany. What would happen if I treated my body as a work of art and food as the artistic medium? What would happen if I ate vegetables to see what would happen to my obese body? Now, a little backstory to that. Her and I had gone to Italy and Greece to see the art renaissance and to study the major painters of the art renaissance. And when I saw Michelangelo's painting on the Sistine Chapel, The Creation of Adam, you know, it just took my breath away. And I thought, I would never think of smearing mud on the Sistine Chapel, but here I was every day smearing mud on my body. So I thought, I'm going to make it into an art exhibit. And my friend just like, oh my goodness, what are you doing? So I started off July 10th, 2008. So it's been almost 11 years ago.
Wow.
I made the decision, I'm going to get my health back. And so, and I did it as a scientific experiment because I really did want to see how food could change my body artistically. And, you know, within a year, really less than a year, I lost 100 pounds. And so it all came off really quick. I have, here's the pants I used to wear. I had a 51-inch waist.
Oh.
And they, you know, these are size 24. And it was one of those things that, how do I say, I'm grateful for this way of eating. I would never go back to the other way. Although when I 5 years into eating this way, my son died by suicide. And I'll go into further in a little detail later on here, but I never went back to eating pizza and steaks and all those things that caused me to be 100 pounds overweight. But I did gravitate towards the low nutrient foods, the oat bars, the banana ice creams, the almond butter, popcorn, anything that was a comfort food. I just didn't have the appetite for greens. And this is sort of a misconception that we can eat anything we want and not gain weight. Well, if Dr. Fuhrman's formula is health is nutrients over calories. And if we flip that around, we eat more calories than nutrients, the oat bars, the desserts, the healthy desserts, we can gain weight. And, you know, I still have 10 pounds to get off. I gained some weight back from that. Not the whole way at all.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you can gain weight by just flipping it. You're still eating healthy food,
Yes.
but you're no longer eating the high nutrient foods, and that's
Absolutely. So, okay, great. I have a really good sort of idea here of your timeline now. I want to take some time to talk about your son in a moment, if that's okay with you. And
absolutely.
if you want, tell me a little bit about that idea, a little bit more about that idea you were saying, you know, and I talk about this a lot too. You can't eat whatever you want. You have to be pretty serious about quantities of certain things, but then there are certain things that are completely unlimited, right? Greens and non-starchy vegetables type thing. And to me, that is really the success. That's where the people's success comes from, is making those greens and non-starchy vegetables unlimited. But when you were saying, I didn't go back to the pizza, I didn't go back to this, that, why? Why didn't you go back to the pizza? Because I want to say, if I lost my daughter, I bet pizza would be on the menu. Do you know what I mean? So what was it about you and that situation that made it? Yeah.
Well, number one, by this time it had been 5 years of eating, you know, the high nutrient foods. To be honest, I lost my taste for it. I really did. Now, during those 5 years that I kept all that weight off, I was eating oat bars during that time. I was eating the lower nutrient foods during that time.
Yeah.
I did totally, you know, I ate a lot of the banana ice creams.
Yeah.
And so what happened, but I'd never eaten the pizza and the cheese and all that. So what happened is I just gradually started eating more of the oat bars, more of the banana, less of the greens. And so before you know it, after about 6 months of doing that, you're preferring the banana ice creams over the kale salads. And it's a gradual, it's not like, oh, I'm going to start eating the low nutrient foods. It's just a gradual, because like I said, all those years that I kept the weight off, I was eating oat bars, I was eating banana ice creams, but I was also eating a lot of greens.
Right.
Years, a lot of greens.
That's a really good point that you make, because I think that, and as I said, that really is the key to it, is it's just the ratio of the things that you eat. And so if you compare it to my journey, which is about 5-6 years, going on close to 6 years now, since mine was so up and down, standard American diet foods included, whereas yours was 100% nutritarian, but maybe just quantities were off for 5 years. This is a point that I highlighted in my most recent interview with Dr. Furman about food addiction as well, that when he talks about the timeline for how long it takes you to lose your taste for, sad foods or whatever it is, or to increase your taste for nutritarian foods and no salt, these kinds of things, he says like 6 months to a year to love the food, to crave the food, to be really enjoying it, but at 100%. Right? Mm-hmm. How many of us really do 100% in the beginning instead of, I would call it flirting with it. For me, in the first 3 months were 100%, and then my father passed away. Mm-hmm. So then my journey went like this for a long time, including standard American diet foods. But that is the point, is that if you really want to have those changes happen within your body, like physiologically and in your brain, that has to be with lots of nutritarian food.
Sure. And, I want to say that if my son would have died like 3 months into it or 2 months into eating this way, I probably would have gone back to the pizza. But, I had almost 5 years under my belt by this time.
Yep.
And so I really did not crave those things, or otherwise I would have been right back to eating the pizza, the ranch dressing, all the things that put all that weight on me.
Yeah, it's interesting. So think about that, guys, when you think about where you are in your journey. And hey, life happens, right? Like we are going to have tragedy befall us at various times. And of course, we never know when those will happen. It's more about getting as much time under your belt as you can and trying as hard as you can to get those things changed in your body. So could we go back a little bit to your son? You lost him to suicide, and you've mentioned that his out-of-control blood sugars played a part in his death. Can you elaborate a little bit, if you don't mind?
Yes. In fact, that's how, when he was 11, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And for those who don't know, another name for that is juvenile diabetes. They're usually kids when they're diagnosed, but they require insulin to keep them alive, basically. And that's when I first was introduced to Dr. Furman. I actually had a phone consultation with him because I wanted to get him off of insulin at age 11. And that's when I thought, oh, it sounded so good. It sounded so logical, but it's like, this is just too hard to do. So, you know, but anyhow, but as long as he ate, you know, Dr. Furman's diet, the high nutrient diet, his blood sugar stayed stable. And he only required a half of the amount of insulin.
Wow.
Type 1 diabetics can't get totally off insulin, but they can reduce it by half. And they don't have the complications that, you know, that develop with diabetes. But when he was about 15, there was, you know how youth groups and school activities, everything is pizza and junk food and chips. And he got really tired of eating, you know, healthier foods. And so whenever he would eat sugar, primarily sugar, and we're talking like a 1 pound bag of M&Ms, like a binge. Whenever he would have a binge, and like I say, 99% of the time he ate well, but it was that one time every couple months he just said, forget it.
Yeah.
That 1 pound bag of M&Ms, and it would affect his brain. And it's called a metabolic encephalopathy. It's a big, long name, but it's the same medical delirium of psychosis and hallucination that schizophrenia have. And it's just from the high blood sugars. It basically, Dr. Furman, a lot of doctors have said too much glucose in our brains, it really kills the cells in there. And so, so he would go in and out of psychosis if he would eat sugar. And even though the general population, you and I, who don't have type 1 diabetes, who don't have, you know, and not everybody with type 1 diabetes that lose their brain, you know, to this degree, but he happened to be one that sugar really affected him severely. And you know, that's another one of my passions is, they say automobile accidents at night are alcohol related. And in the morning, a police officer was telling me this, in the morning, they're sugar related. So those donuts we're eating in the morning, they really are affecting how our brain functions. And fast food genocide that Dr. Furman's written, that's all about our brain health and how much sugar affects our brain. And if nobody's read that book yet, oh my goodness, if nothing else, so that we have clear minds to understand how badly junk food affects our brains. But anyhow, so that's, and then a week before he died, he went on a major junk food binge and he ended up dying by suicide a week later. And right before the funeral, I found in his trash can empty sacks of sugar sweetened cereal, honey roasted peanut butter, empty jars, empty the big things of soda. But he had a major binge and he just didn't care.
Yeah.
And it affected his mind severely that time.
Wow.
And he didn't recover that time. I mean, he, you know, took his life then. So he was like 21.
Wow. So he kills himself, and it wasn't related to the sugar, but it's probable, Emily, do you think that the psychosis and the other sort of things that happen as a result of the diabetes are what caused him to commit suicide?
Oh, absolutely. In part, I mean, there was, you know, things, bullying, and he had some things. He was discouraged about life in general. He had been, you know, depressed too, but absolutely the sugar affected how he was not sane at that point.
Sure. I'm holding back tears right now. Thank you so much for sharing your story here. I know you've shared it before, but I appreciate this, and I know my viewers will as well, to kind of see the thing I want to mention here about this. When I used to binge on sugar like this, very similarly, like every month when I got my period, it was a pound bag of M&Ms, always. And I would get 2 different kinds and eat as much of it as I could until I got sick. But how incredibly sad and unfair that his binge would lead to something much more serious.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, you can sort of think about this with an older person, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, who has such metabolic damage, such physiological damage, that these types of binges can do the same to them with heart attacks or strokes or things like that, in a way very similar to your son. Whereas me, when I used to binge and I was 20, I had enough kind of resilience in my body to be able to handle that. But it is just as serious when you binge, when you eat that way, right? That's why Dr. Furman and everyone talks about the Christmas heart attack syndrome, right? You binge so much on these foods, and it can be life or death at that point, and how very unfortunate that it was for your son as well.
Sure. And, you know, that's like, my heart goes out to teenagers, you know, and like they're young enough, they do, like you say, they have the resilience. But like there was many times he wanted to eat healthy, he really did, but he was just surrounded by it everywhere he went. And I mean, we all are. But
yeah, tell me a little bit why you think that food addiction is so prevalent in our culture. Why do you think why do you think there's so much food addiction around us?
I think because it's celebrated. You know, if you've ever said, I want to eat healthy, or people will make fun of it, you know, like it's celebrated, like, oh, I'm going to have this. And it's almost promoted in our culture. As far as, I'll give this story. The year I lost 100 pounds, there was a gentleman that I didn't even know very well, an acquaintance. He came up to me. He tried to pry my mouth open to stuff a chocolate eclair into my mouth. He was like, I had so much resistance, not from my family members, but people were making fun of me, and the sabotaging of it, and it's promoted. You go to any grocery store, you go to a gas station, anywhere you go, you're surrounded by this stuff.
Yep.
You know, and so I think in our culture, just the way it is right now, people do make fun a lot of times. If you eat healthy, they make fun of that.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, it's so true. You're so right. And I noticed in your bio that you help people recover from food addiction. So can you tell us a little bit about more about that and what you've learned?
Yes, you know, this started my journey helping others. You know, once I got out of my own food addiction, and I wrote for Disease Proof for Dr. Furman, then I started traveling to his events and you know, talking to a lot more people. And people confide in me of how hard it is and how addicted they are to food. I mean, I had a mother came up to me and talked about, you know, she couldn't hardly even interact with her teenage daughter anymore, couldn't drive her to activities, couldn't get in cars. I've had parents, I mean, it's just so sad. That's how I got working with a lot of people addicted to food. I'm real hesitant. I do not say food addicts, just personally, because I believe you should not be labeled the rest of your life of what that is. You know, we're people who could easily go back to eating junk food, but to label myself a food addict, I just refuse to do that. And I refuse to label myself a suicide loss survivor for that very reason, you know.
Yeah, I like that. I like that point actually, because even with the suicide loss survivor thing, it puts a stamp on you forever, and it means that you can't get back from something. You can't become you again, no matter what happened to you. Like, you're gonna be this forever. I totally agree with that. With the whole kind of NA, AA type programs where you are taught that you'll never get better. I know that you can get better from food addiction because I know I was a food addict, and now I know I'm not one anymore. I may have moments where I go a little crazy, but I never, and I just did a video about this. I'm gonna put a link for this video up here, which is, it's how to start and just keep going.
There you go.
It talks all about this place of, you'll see a really professional graph in this video about how you'll get to a place that you never thought you could go before, and how you'll realize there's no way you could ever go back to where you started. Very interesting kind of a topic, and I want to ask you about this, the moderation myth. So in this sort of, when we're talking about this, you shouldn't call yourself a food addict for life, but what's this moderation myth, and why is just one bite such a setback to those who are kind of suffering from this?
Well, Dr. Furman explains we have these dopamine receptors, and just one bite of an addictive substance. If you were formerly addicted to cigarettes, you know, one smoke of cigarettes, you know, of a cigarette will just open up that dopamine reward system again in your brain, and you go right back to that path.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that happens with sugar, alcohol, any of these things in actually the standard American diet, the foods, the high salt, the high sugar, high fat foods, they create the same biochemical effects in our brain as any kind of substance abuse. So that's why we can't go back to eating that way. I know there are people who can, and maybe I think there's different levels maybe of,
Yeah.
I know my husband, he could probably, well, I know he can, he could eat one brownie, and if he's full, he will stop at half of a brownie and push it away because he's full. Where I don't know what a brownie tastes like because I only know what an entire pan of brownies taste like. Well, I don't know what one brownie would taste like. And so I think, you know, there's different levels, and I know I have a substance abuse to sugar. And so therefore, I cannot open up those dopamine receptors and go back to that because, and believe me, I have before, and I can tell you in one day, I'm right back to eating not everything I used to eat. I mean, you know, sugar-wise.
Yeah.
Sugar-wise. I could, if I wanted to, and I haven't, thank God, but I could eat an entire loaf of pan of brownies if I wanted, if I really wanted to go back to that. But I know I can't do that. But I don't want to either. I feel so good eating this way. And that's the key, I think, of across the board is why most people don't go back to eating this way. And there's this myth maybe that we all like are going around going, oh, I can't have that brownie. Oh, I can't have that ice cream. It's like, I don't want that brownie. I don't want that ice cream. I just don't have the desire for that. Or sugar-free gum. To me, it tastes like chemicals in my mouth now. Or diet Pepsi.
So let me make a point about that real quick.
Yes.
Because I believe from personal experience, you can get so healed that you can have a brownie, but you don't care about the brownie.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think the point that I want to distinguish here, because this is what I believe in the core of my being from personal experience, having been worst of the worst food addict.
Sure.
If I took, you know, I don't know if you guys know, but Susan Pierce Thompson's Bright Line Eating susceptibility quiz, I'm a 10++, right? Like I'm the worst of the worst, or I used to be.
Sure.
Now knowing if I was to have, this is years later, if I was to have that brownie, I might eat the whole brownie, but I also have things in place that I have no desire to change of. I don't make a whole pan of brownies at my house. I don't leave brownies at my house because I know probably I will get to that place like maybe on the second day or the third day, all the brownies are gone. But there is a place that you can get healed to where the taste isn't even there. You're like, I don't even care about it too much, right?
Absolutely.
So you can, there's a wonderful, beautiful, you know, utopia of being free from that, but don't be dumb about it.
There you go.
Right?
Right. Because to me, it's like, I don't want to push the edge so much to find out where that threshold is because I'm safe now. And I love living in the safety. There is freedom in the safety.
It's true.
And I don't want to go back to being in bondage again. I know what that felt like. I know what it was like to carry around 100 pounds.
Yes.
I don't want to test the waters to see where that place is.
Yeah, and I think the important note, so that's for, we talk about that like, I could have a brownie, but I have to be careful. That's for people who've been doing this for years.
Yes.
But the place where you're starting out, that's where the moderation myth is 100% important. because
That's exactly.
yeah, in the first, I don't know, few months or years or whatever, if you start to dabble with brownies or you start to dabble with cookies or whatever, you're right back into it. So can you tell us a little bit about the time, like the time span? What do you think about time spans, about healing and that sort of thing?
Well, I really think how long you have been eating this way. Like I was 47 when I started. And so, you know, the first week, and I'll be honest, I tell people this, I gagged on the greens. My taste buds were so switched off to vegetables and so switched on to cheese and cottage cheese and all the high fat foods that it was really hard for me that first week, and I gagged. But, and I had a lot of brain fog that week. And when I say brain fog, it was just like my brain was just sort of unclear all week.
Yeah.
And I never was sick. You know, a lot of people get nauseous. I never was sick. And I think, you know, what happened to me is 4 days after I started this journey on July 10th, on July 14th, Daniel, my son who took his life, that's the day he ate the 1 pound bag of M&Ms.
Okay.
4 days into this journey, we were back into crisis mode. He was lost on Lake Michigan. We had to get him to a hospital. And so it was literally a crisis mode for the first 3 months. So I basically dumped my the vegetable crisper out of my refrigerator. I dumped it into a cooler, put it in the back of my car, and drove to Cincinnati, which is 3.5 hours away. So, you know, I really didn't have, I wasn't really in tune to what my symptoms were actually at the beginning. So, but those first 3 months, I did not sway from eating Dr. Furman's plan. In fact, what I did is I typed out his 6-week plan, laminated it. I had one in my purse, one in the car, everywhere I went, and that made all my decisions because I was in crisis mode and I had to just follow that, and I didn't eat anything off of that plan. And those first 3 months, I came back, I was back in Indiana and lost 40 pounds, and the cravings were gone. They really were for that stuff. But it was still I still had a binge. Thanksgiving, I had the traditional Thanksgiving meal. This, you know, I started this in July, so Thanksgiving, I was still binging on and I got really sick. Never did it again because I got so sick.
Yeah.
That February, I had another binge. I remember having candy bars and stuff.
Okay.
Got real sick.
Well, it's good to hear that you didn't have a, you know, 100% journey exactly, because I think that's what turns people off and gets people discouraged, is that they think, oh, well, I can't do 100%. I'll never be able to be perfect, so I'll never be able to do what she can do, and I'll never survive. And then they just
no, absolutely, no.
Emily, were you were in Eat to Live, right? As one of the case studies, the actual book. Hold on, let me grab my book real quick. Yeah, and this actually reminds me, I took a second to open up Eat to Live because I've actually made a video about Emily in the past. She's the case study on page 209 of Eat to Live, actually. So if you guys are interested to see her again in print, man, she's right in Eat to Live. Like, this is you know, this is legit. And I referred to this before because this paragraph right here was so compelling to me, and it hit me the way that she said this. So all of these issues she had at the time, the first couple weeks, I didn't feel like eating romaine lettuce. I followed the plan. I was heavily addicted to salt, creamy cottage cheese. I followed the plan. I craved Diet Cola, Diet Pudding. I followed the plan. My son became seriously ill. I followed the plan. He went to a hospital. I followed the plan. The cafeteria food was disgusting. I followed the plan. That kind of punctuation for me was really, it sort of hit something in my mind, because I think it's important for all of us to find our compelling epic reason we're doing this. Why are we doing it? And what is the thing that makes us keep following the plan no matter what? So you told me a second ago that in private between us, but you said that I followed the plan was a mantra for you. So what was it? What was it about Eat to Live that gave you that compelling reason? Was it just the weight? Was it the health stuff? What was your compelling reason in the very beginning?
Well, yeah, number one, I seriously was scared of having a heart attack or stroke.
Yeah.
That was the original. But also, I was making it into an art exhibit, and I wanted to see, being the artist in me, I wanted to see, okay, does this I had read Dr. Furman's Eat to Live. It's like his old version. This is the newer version. But, you know, does this really, can you really change your body like he said?
Yeah.
And, you know, within 1 month, through all the stress of my son, my blood pressure just dropped. It was 157. It went down to 118 over, I forget the other number, but it went down to healthy levels within 1 month. And I knew then, this is for me, because I saw what it was doing to my body even after 30 days.
So your compelling reason went from, I need to lose the weight, I'm afraid of having a heart attack, right? And I think if you're afraid of having a heart attack, it must feel something like a ticking time bomb. You never know when it's going to happen. And you also had your art exhibit sort of, you know, idea as well, which gives you that initial motivation. And this is a cool point, actually, because I think it's important for people to understand that your motivation changes over time.
Oh, right? Absolutely. Yes.
And then importantly, the food supports it, because the longer you do it, the better you get. Like here I am 6 years into it, healing, like almost healed from all the things I was freaking out about before, and going, wow, this place is peaceful. This feels great. I don't want to lose this. And now that's my compelling reason of, I don't want to lose this feeling.
Exactly.
And these kinds of things happen over time. So thank you so much. And you guys, if you haven't gotten the book, Eat to Live, first of all, get this book, start here. We're going to talk a little bit more about Emily's book in a little bit here. Do you eat out at restaurants?
That's a good question. That's an important question, because a lot of people ask me that. I didn't at the beginning, and I don't encourage people to eat out at the beginning, especially, you know, when you're in a social situation with friends. A lot of times you're not paying attention to what you're eating, and it's easy to just, you know, start eating because you're talking to someone. I say that first. I even say the first month at least. In my book I say a week or two, but you know, it depends how established you're eating this way. But when you're on shaky ground and someone asks you to eat out, it's really easy to go back to eating addictive food. And so my thing is, it's not worth it at the beginning. Now I do. I eat out a lot. I have my favorite restaurants that have, you know, I've learned where they are. They have the steamed vegetables, and they actually bring it with no salt and no oil when I trust that. Now I have little tricks now I've learned, but at the beginning, I would say if you're super serious about getting your taste buds changed, it's not worth it. And it sounds restrictive. It really does. But it is freedom. You know, these boundaries. My art teacher in college, my painting teacher, always said, in discipline, there is freedom. Ooh. And it's so true. You know, a lot of times there's this negative, oh, I don't want the discipline of doing that. But that's where the freedom is, you know. And I think in America as a culture, we have this idea that no discipline, no, you know, being as lax as you are is freedom. No, that's bondage. I did that, bought the t-shirt, and I weighed 100 pounds overweight. Let me tell you, there is no freedom. You can't roll over in bed at night. You can't get in. That
was a big t-shirt, and it was very expensive and very scary to wear.
Yes, but yeah, you know, and so that's why it's not, you know, when I say I didn't eat out at the beginning, to me, it was worth it. It was a small price to pay for a lifetime ahead. Of not needing doctor appointments.
And I want to make the point too, because I think people think, oh, don't eat out. But here you are saying 1 month. Commit to 1 month.
Yes.
Now, I think the point is not to go, oh, 1 month and then I'm going to be able to go out to restaurants all the time again. Right. But 1 month, and then you'll know how to go to a restaurant possibly, right? Then you might have the information on how to do it. So for those folks that have gotten through the first month, you mentioned you had a few tips. What kind of tips do you have for going to restaurants?
You know, usually if I know it's going to be a restaurant where they don't have many choices, as far as salads go and the vegetables, if it's going to be mainly just, you know, they'll come with just a tiny little salad. Yeah. And you usually know ahead of time, you know, what those restaurants are. I'll have a green smoothie before I go, and maybe an apple in my car, and a little sack of almonds in the car for afterwards. So I never count on that meal to be my meal. I really look at it as I'm going to be with my friends. I'm going to share a meal with my daughter. I'm not looking at this is my meal for right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, I supplement in the car or beforehand. And then if I know it's some of my favorite, I have some favorite restaurants now they go to where I know I can get a humongous salad with all the toppings I want that are for me, and I can get the steamed vegetables and I'm full, you know, then I'll eat the full meal there. But, you know, you sort of have to gauge, okay, I know that this restaurant really doesn't have the choices that, you know, to be honest, I know Dr. Furman says this, I know it's like I can eat so much more and better at home. It's like I hate to spend $7 on a salad this big.
I know.
It's not even fulfilling. And it's like for, you know, $2 at home, I can make a beautiful salad. But, you know, but it's about being with friends and being out, you know, with your family and friends.
And I think there's a little bit of nervousness when people start out because and I think that this has to do with addiction, that you are worried when you go there. Well, this is kind of like a strange concept. And I know I went through this for so long. When you go to a restaurant, you get this kind of crazy looking at the menu going, oh, I need to have this, or I need to have this because it's going to be a long time before I can have this again. And I want this one too. So I better get 2 of the appetizers and this one, but also definitely dessert. And you kind of get this craziness going on inside your head. And so I want to point out that that sort of food addiction, like that's addiction right there, having that kind of craziness about food, because you should be able to look at a menu and be like, what should I eat right now? I should be able to make a choice and have it be real easy. So this is another case for waiting a month or 2 before you go to a restaurant, because you want to kind of have some of those things worked out first. So,
you know, one thing, there's a Subway on every corner in America right now. You know, they have those wonderful chopped salads now. Those are lifesavers, you know. And then I always supplement, you know, I put dried chickpeas or something in my purse and make some almonds to supplement with. But, you know, if you're traveling, you know, driving along, every Subway has a chopped salad now. So that's a really nice thing to tuck in your, you know. Away.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so what is the number 1 tip that you could give that's helped you to stick with this lifestyle over the last almost over a decade?
Well, I think it's always be prepared. Always. You know, never let the refrigerator run empty. As far as, you know, if you see that you've eaten up the last carrot, it's a little bit late. You know, wait till, you know, when your carrot bag is half empty, you know, just always make sure you're stocked up. And it's really, once you get in the routine of having everything stocked, it's real simple. When things get about half empty, make sure you're at least heading towards the grocery again. Don't wait until everything is low. Or if you make soup or whatever it is you like to make, don't wait until it's empty to then go to the store and get, because you know what's going to happen. It's like, I'm at the store, I'm hungry, there's nothing good at home right now to eat, so you'll, you know, get something that will just throw everything off. So I say be prepared, and be prepared everywhere you go. I always in my head assume, no matter where I go, that they're not going to have the food that really nourishes me like I need to. So I always have a cooler, not locally, but I always have a cooler in the trunk of my car of just some things that I keep on hand, apples, almonds, you know, that I can at least tie me over until I get to where, you know, I've done this. Like I told you that period of time I relapsed, you know, I gained some weight back. I still have 10 pounds to get off. Sure. But when I relapsed, you know, I just didn't care. And so I didn't prepare. I didn't have, you know, I didn't plan ahead. And so that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That is such a huge one, I think is so important, because also you can't always assume that your motivation is going to be 100% all the time either. Typically when you run out of stuff or when you're not prepared is the times that you're like, I don't feel like going to the store. And then there's another day that goes by. I had asked Dr. Furman a question on my second to most recent interview with him about what do you do if you're out and about and you're starved, and because I was trying to get at, are there any fast food places you can go to or whatever? Because I get asked that question all the time. And he was like very Dr. Furman back. He was like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, you just, and he didn't even really answer it, but I wanted to sort of elaborate for a second, because he's like, you would be making excuses if you went to a fast food place, was his point. And I wanted to elaborate, because what I've found, like you're saying, you could be prepared, but you could also stop at a grocery store and eat 3 bananas, like, and that would take care of it. Or you could buy a whole bag of carrots and eat all of those right away. Wow. Everyone, like most people, are within access to an apple, a few apples or a few bananas or something like that. It doesn't have to be a specific meal, but when you get that kind of craziness going on, right? Always be prepared there with some ideas in your head too about how you.
You know, that's a good point too. You know, they have apps now on phones. Like when you're traveling, just, you know, the nearest grocery store, and they're right off the exits of the highway, just as much as the restaurants are. And it like takes, you know, I don't eat at restaurants. I do. I go to grocery stores. I love getting those little sacks of snap peas, just opening up and eating them out of the, you know, a good apple, a couple bananas, like you say. You can eat well traveling. Definitely. Just like going to the grocery stores, you know, everywhere.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that. Okay, so what are your 3 top like go-to recipes that you make all the time in your house? And by the way, these are the recipes that are going to be in the cheat sheet. So make sure you sign up for the cheat sheets, you guys. Okay, well, one I love, I just have to have all the time, and I'll send you this. I make a kale salad. And it's real easy. When you buy kale, usually you can get it chopped up in bags already chopped up, but most of them you buy them in bunches. It has a stem. Yeah. Destem the kale off the stem, I guess. Yeah. And I make a bowl, 1 bunch of kale in a bowl, and then I cut up a red pepper, and I dice it up, mix it in. And then I also put in sometimes, not always, a red onion, and I slice it very paper thin, very little. If you have chunks of red onion, you'll want to spit it out. But I only put like 1/4 a cup to a whole. I don't use a lot because you don't want that to be overpowering. Yeah. And then with clean hands, I take 1 avocado, ripe one, and I chop it up, you know, dice it up, put that in there, and the juice of 1 lemon. Okay. Make sure you don't get a seed in there, because if you get a seed in there and bite down on that seed, you will hate the salad. Yeah. And then I put all that together, and just with clean hands, I massage that till that avocado and that lemon is all thoroughly saturating the greens. And it's even better the next day, because that lemon marinates the kale and it makes it softer and less bitter. So it's really good the next day. And I like to sprinkle either raw pumpkin seeds on it or raw sunflower seeds. Wow. I love that. I mean, that is like, I could eat that every meal and never get tired of it. Beautiful. And another thing is just a simple kale smoothie for breakfast. I know if you're not used to eating this way, it sounds really gross, but it's good. I put a high-speed blender. I have a Vitamix, but you could use any high-speed blender. And I don't measure how many greens. I put 2 handfuls of greens in the blender with about a cup of water in the bottom of it. And then about a cup of frozen blueberries, a ripe banana, and some almonds and some flaxseed. And I usually do 1 tablespoon of flaxseed and about 1/2 ounce of almonds. And I'll write this all up. Blend it until it's real smooth and creamy, and just drink it. Pour it in a glass. And I know this sounds really weird, but I like the crunchiness of frozen edamame beans. And I will dump those. I will dump about 1/2 cup of edamame beans and stir, not in the blender, but once it's out of the blender, I'll stir that in. And I like the little chewy crunch adds to it. It's fun. It's personal. I'm just excited because I never use edamame, but I always have it in my freezer. I'm doing this today. Perfect.
It is. It's fun. And then something, especially in the summer, not in the winter months, this will free, but in the summer, I love to take frozen dark cherries and frozen pineapple and unsweetened dark cherries. They're sweet naturally.
Yeah.
Just dump them into the Vitamix with about, half a cup to a cup of water. Take the plunger, a Vitamix has a plunger.
Right.
And when it comes out, it's a cherry sorbet. Everybody, even if they're addicted to all kinds of ice cream, they love my cherry sorbets. To me, to have something so simple like that, that's so easy. And that's a nice dessert for when you have people over, for dinner. It's a nice little ending to a meal to have that, and some little oat bars.
Wow.
But that cherry sorbet, kale salad, kale smoothie, you're good to go.
Oh, wonderful.
I want to tell your tribe, your listeners, I'm new to YouTube, guys. I don't know what everybody's called, the YouTubers.
There you go, YouTubers, yeah, subscribers.
YouTubers, okay. I want to tell you something. My husband, he's never had a food addiction, but he's always been relatively thin. But he just ate whatever he wanted, and but it caught up with him. He was having some chest pain and stuff. But today, he would eat this stuff. He'd call it stuff. He would eat my stuff, but he never liked it. Now he loves eating this way. He loves eating this way.
Oh my gosh.
My husband and my teenage son, oh my goodness, he loves eating this way. And back when he was 8, when I started this, he did not like Dr. Furman, because Dr. Furman ruined his life. He said, the older kids got to eat junk food. I don't get to eat it. He really, through his late junior high years, he hated this.
Yeah.
Hated anything to do with healthy food. And now he's 20. He loves eating healthy. So if my teenage son can love eating healthy food, everybody can. I mean, and my husband too.
That's amazing. How long do you think it took your husband to come on board?
Okay. I say that first year, I did not make anybody, and I never made anybody eat this way. But when I'm saying when I never made, I didn't force this way of eating on anybody. It was my thing, because it's sort of like the oxygen mask on an airplane.
Yep.
Keep the mother healthy first, or let her breathe the oxygen mask, and then she can help other people. I felt the same way. It's like, I need to get myself healthy.
That's right.
And then help my family get healthy. So that first year, it was about 9 months into it, I switched out the cow's milk for almond milk, and nobody complained. I thought, that's cool. And then I had more vegetables at the meals, but I still was making all the meatloaf and spaghetti and everything, but I just had more vegetables, more salads. Nobody complained. Then I started making like the banana ice creams, the oat bars, the cherry sorbets, and they all liked eating those things. And so then I got rid of the processed cereal one day. It just wasn't in the cupboard anymore. Nobody complained. It was just a gradual, like, slowing down of buying that stuff. And then my husband, it was right before my son died, he was having a lot of chest pain, and Dr. Furman said, listen, you've got to do this 100%. You either go in for bypass surgery or you start today 100%. And he did that 3 months before Daniel died. And I don't know if he would have had a heart attack during that time. We'll never know. But he called himself, what was it? He called himself I don't know, something like halfway nutritarian or nutritarian light. That's what he called himself. He goes, I'm nutritarian light. And that meant he ate healthy at home because I made the food, but he would eat out with his clients during the day, and that caught up with him, and that didn't protect him from the heart. Oh, I like your cat.
She always wants to be part of it. It's lunchtime now, so she's like, Mom.
Oh, how cute.
Well, this is Moob. She's very famous on the channel. Everyone knows her.
Oh, how cute. Hi, Moob.
She's always got to make
We have 2 cats and a dog, but now they're all gone now. So it's like, having pets.
Yep. Yeah. She's pretty pushy about lunchtime, but we'll just keep pushing her away for a minute.
Yeah.
So I love that because I think a lot of people have that issue of how do I introduce my family to this? So at the same time that you were kind of making those little changes, you were still like 100% though. You would have your huge salads. You wouldn't be eating the meatloaf, but you would for a while sort of make 2 meals for everybody. Like was that kind of how it worked?
Yes, I did that. I had a place in the refrigerator that was all mine. That's where I put my food, and in my mind mentally, that was for me. And I knew I had to psychologically make a mark in my brain. Okay, those shelves are for them. That's not for me anymore. And I did, and they were so helpful. I did request that nobody bring ice cream into the house. If they wanted ice cream, to go to Dairy Queen or go somewhere to get it, and they all honored that. And I'm grateful for them. A lot of people won't honor something like that.
Right.
They were supported that way, but even they would leave chips out on the counter, and I had to say, hey guys, can you not leave the chips out? If you want to have them, fine, but put them in the cupboard. And so there was some education on my part, but I tell you what made the switch for all my kids. They all eat healthy now, all the 4 of them who are remaining. When they saw me get healthy and my moods, the sugar, I may not have had what my son had, but it definitely affected my moods, the sugar did. And so when they saw my moods calm down, when they saw that I was just happier, I could actually go bike riding. I never could ride a bike with my kids. Wow. I fell through soccer chairs on the soccer sidelines. I actually ran in races with them for the first time ever. And I went hiking with them for the first time ever. They love the new mom. And so they never complained because they liked the new mom. Yeah. So, they all jumped in and became very supportive after that first year because they liked what they saw in me, I
love it. Okay, huge. I think that's huge for everybody. I could just ask a really detailed question real quick. So your fridge, was it a standard size? And how did you fit that much stuff for you into because my fridge is full of nutritarian food. It's just for me. So did you shop more often? How did that work?
I don't really remember. I probably did, but I had the crisper drawers. Those were mine. And then like when I made, I didn't really make soups back then as much. But I'm trying to think, like I made a lot of chickpea salad where I take chickpeas and vinegar, and I made this. And I had some containers in the fridge that were just mine, and everybody knew that was Mom's. But it's mainly the 2. Yeah, I probably did go to the grocery more just to restock everything. Okay. That was a challenge when there was all 5 kids at home, plus my husband and I. I could have easily had another refrigerator out in the garage. Yeah. Now it's just my husband and I, it's fine. But yeah, I know I had to have gone to the grocery more often because our refrigerator just couldn't handle that much,
Cool. Yeah. That's a great detail. thank you for sharing those parts because I get asked those so much. My husband isn't 100% nutritarian. He is when he's home, but when he's away, he's not. So he does his best, but I think but I love the idea that it wasn't like you guys have to do this. It was, I'm just doing it and I'm going to rub off on you. This is going to, you're going to want to do this.
Listen to this. My son, when he was a junior in high school, the little guy when he was 8 that complained, when he was a junior in high school, he interviewed Dr. Furman for a radio class in his high school. And so he became like the health nut at his high school. And to this day, he's like, he's Mr. Vegetables, and everybody knows him as Mr. Salad, So
that's amazing.
I never forced it, but that also doesn't mean I didn't educate them. We have this joke. At the dinner table at Christmas and Thanksgiving, I couldn't use the F word, Dr. Furman. Because I would say, oh, this would be good. Dr. Furman says this, or especially when I got my my certification in nutrition, and rattling off all of that, and it's like, oh, do we have to hear this? So
one day without this.
So Christmas and Thanksgiving, you can't say the F word. So
that's hilarious. Well, thank you so much for sharing such wonderful personal details about your life. I know this was so personal, but I think it's so helpful to hear these, you know, very specific details of people's lives to find out how they did it. And you are, you know, I mean, one of the originals. So thank you so much, Emily. We need to talk about your book. I have to know more about your book. So tell me about your book, the title of it, and why did you write it? And what can people expect when they get your book?
Actually, I tell people, here it is, it's called Starved to Obesity.
Okay.
Well, but I tell everybody I've been writing it since I was 6 years old. And that really is, my heart's cry. I have been writing it this long, but basically it's the book that I wish I would have had when I was a kid. And I wish my parents would have had it when I was a kid. And I wish my family doctor would have had it. And I wish my pastors would have had it. And I wish my boyfriend, who is now my husband, you know, we've been married 37 years, but I wish he would have had this book, because it not only helps people get out of food addiction, because I tell my story, but also I basically simplify a little bit of the Eat to Live principles, and just about, you know, how to get out of the toxic hunger, what toxic hunger is, things like that. But also the main thing I put in this book a lot is those of us addicted to food, we need someone to be an advocate for us. And sometimes we don't know how to say, I can't have that. But this book, just give them this book, read the book, and I tell you, they're going to support your journey after reading this book. And to me, it didn't start off to be an advocate book, but after it's written, it's like, this is a book for anybody who wants to eat this way, but they don't have anybody supporting them. Give them this book to read. It will open their eyes to some things. There's a lot of research in there, a lot of statistics. It will open everybody's eyes to how serious of a problem this is in our culture, and to support people getting out of the addiction. It's a very, you know, there's some parts in there. I go into my son's journey. I actually start off the book with about getting the phone call the day he died. And, you know, I went into a major relapse, not right away because there was shock at the beginning, but I went into a major relapse, and I go into relapse and how I climbed out of that, and the people that had to surround me to help me out of that pit. So, you know, it's not just about food, it's about marriage. My husband, bless his heart, we were young. I was 19, he was 21 when we got engaged. And I told him, I said, well, I have a food problem. Back then I didn't know how to articulate. I just said a food problem. He said, oh, no big deal. Everybody eats an extra piece of cake once in a while. So to him, it was no big deal. And it's like, oh, okay. So we got married really young, not knowing what we were getting ourselves into with my addiction.
Yes.
And there's some really ugly parts of my marriage in here at the beginning. And so it's not a marriage book at all, but it shows just some things to work on. And Kurt, even my husband, has a little part in there at the back. My daughter, she wrote a little part, what it was like growing up in a home with a mother who was addicted to food. So in a nutshell, that's what it's to help anybody out of food addiction, but it's also for the people in their lives who are influencers in their lives to understand it.
So that to me, and sounds amazing. I already pre-ordered it, but so when does the book actually come out?
Okay, April 16th is the actual release date, and right now it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Simon & Schuster.
Okay.
Dr. Furman wrote the foreword to it. You know, I wrote for his blog, Disease Proof, for 5 years.
Right.
And he was my editor all those years, you know. I wrote a weekly blog post, and he would, so it's only natural, you know, for me to ask him to write the foreword to it. He's the one who got me into, I didn't even know what a blog was back then, you know, and all of a sudden I was this blogger. But
so that's wonderful. So you can pre-order it now. It's available on April 16th, right?
Yes, yes.
So I want to just highlight again what she's talking about you're going to get in this book, because everybody that I know that's everybody. 100% of you watching this video want to know what she has to say. If you were interested by any of the things she said in this interview, you're going to be interested in her book. The little details I asked about, how did this happen in your life, or what was this like, or what was difficult and how did you get out of that? We all have those in our lives. We all have those little problems that we're trying to solve as we do this. So learn from those of us who have gone through the trials and tribulations and do it less than we did, right?
Yes.
Get there faster, get the types of results that she's talking about. And that she mentioned, if there's anyone in your life that is having a hard time understanding what you're doing or where you are, not only will it help them understand what you're going through, so maybe they'll back off a little bit, or maybe they'll just have a healthier respect for what you're doing, the magnitude of what you're doing, but it will definitely influence them as well. I always say to people, once you start the nutritarian diet, once you read Eat to Live, you can't go back to not knowing it anymore. You can't pretend that you don't know what the answer is, right?
Yes, absolutely. It ruins you in a good way for the rest of your life.
All right, so you wanted to know how to enter the giveaway to get a copy of Emily's book, Starved to Obesity. Go to my website. There is a link down in the show more description of this video, above or below the video, depending on where you're watching this, Facebook, YouTube, etc. Click on that link, go to the blog post, and sign up on the Rafflecopter little widget for the giveaway. If you sign up, you get a chance to win this exact copy right here of Emily's new book, signed copy might I add, and I hope you win. If you are watching this video within a week of publish, you have the chance to enter. Good luck!
So get the book, sign up for the book, pre-order it. You can also get it when it comes out April 16th. I'm going to put links for everything down below in the show more description or up in the description as well. And I'm going to put stuff in the cheat sheet as well. So make sure that you sign up for the cheat sheet and you guys can get the awesome, quick, tried and true recipes that Emily talked about here. And also make sure you subscribe, like, comment down below. What did you guys find most helpful for you in this interview? What was the thing that stuck out to you the most? Let's talk about it down below. Lastly, as always, please check out my Patreon channel, patreon.com/thewateringmouth. This is where you guys can get some exclusive content from me, coaching notes, things I'm learning in my coaching, personal photos and things like that that are going on in my life, and things I'm learning about the Eat to Live diet before I release them anywhere else. Exclusive content there, and also I get supported to help make more videos like this for you. So if you love this video, if you like any of my videos, check me out on patreon.com/thewateringmouth. And I just want to say, Emily, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And the YouTubers out there, it's nice to be able to share this cold winter day in Indiana with you guys. And all the best to you guys. Freedom, freedom to everyone. I can't wait till the day that we can go to every place and there's this food everywhere we go,
It's going to be amazing.
We're the pioneers, and that's why it's hard for many of us. We're the pioneers, and I believe in 30 years, they'll consider this like cigarettes. It's like, oh yeah, that was really damaging. Well, I don't know why we did it. I think it'll be easier, but we're paving
the road.
We really are, and that's why, we have to keep encouraging each other here.
That's right. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the messages of hope and the information. And we will be watching you a lot more in the future, Emily. Thank you.
Thanks, Cheri.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon. See you in the next video. Bye.